Hello and welcome in, my friends. 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. Today's going to be a fun episode. Before we get to that, let me thank you for the engagement last week. I don't get out very often to these shows, and even less often moving forward. But thank you to everyone who participated in the digital dealer feedback, as well as the recap episode. Lori, April, Trey, you guys are rock stars. I'm so glad to have been in the same room with you all. We had a lot of fun, but I will not lie to you. I am happy and probably far more comfortable right here in my office that everyone has been seeing forever. So anyways, today's episode is going to be fun. David is someone I've followed for a while. I call it a fun follow. Is somebody who really varies the content. Can be serious, like yesterday's post, David, a little bit more serious, a little bit more poignant, or we could be having fun over here, or we could just see David out of dealerships delivering his magic, Either way, David, thanks a lot for being on the show, man. How are you today?
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome. As you pointed out in the pre-show, we are two automotive people that are geographically close, yet never able to make it together. But here we are. So I'm excited to have you. As you know, it is the guest's call here on what we talk about, how we talk about it. So, David, what are we talking about today?
So the core of it is what I call dealership retailing. I'm a nerd by trade. My degree is artificial intelligence. I've been an entrepreneur since I've been 17. So I got kind of a weird look at the world from a nerd's entrepreneurial mindset. And dealership retailing is something that, it isn't the core of what like my business does in automotive, but we're part of the cog that is dealership retailing. And I get to visit all these dealerships like every day, every week, like a lot of us do in the industry. And the breadth and scope of what I and others see leaves a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of things we can do. And also, you talked about the variations in my posts on social, especially on LinkedIn, because I'm not a like all sales all the time kind of guy. This has caught my eye. Yesterday was Michael Bolero's post that kind of got me into, posting about the social media folks and YouTube about automotive. But a lot of times I get around in dealership retailing, I think, there's a lot of things, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, because there's a lot of things in retailing that are being done incredibly well by people that are insanely good at it. And imitation is the finest form of flattery. Why don't we take the cues from other people that are doing it so well and are selling products that are very inexpensive compared to what we sell at dealerships? To think about it, at a dealership, someone's going to buy a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 vehicle, and we give them, when they're physically at the dealership in front of the unit, we don't give them anything. There's literally a window sticker.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the dichotomy always strikes me every time I'm at a dealership, like this is kind of wild in some respects.
Well, it is. And if you think about the amount that goes into the purchase from both the financial side and the time side, right? Having been a retail kid my whole life, up until we started the company here 10 years ago, I made it my business to be different in retail, right? Like I approached my owner in 2005 and said, hey, we have a problem. We cannot get people out of the mountains of Colorado to our store to buy Subarus, but because they live up there, they have nowhere else they can buy them. It's not like there's a mountain Subaru store. So they have to find a way. And I said, what if we just got rid of the excuse that they won't come here and we just came to them? Right. And he looked at me like, Sean, are you out of your mind? What do you mean deliver a car to the mountains? I'm like, look, we can appraise the trade. We can do all these things online. We can do everything ahead of 2005, David. Okay. Yeah. And so when you talk about the retail process and the core digital retail dealership retailing, this is what I think about. I think about how we're so fixated on all of our tech, all of our this, all of our that, but we're really not focused on delivering the experience where and how the customer wants the experience to be done, right? I always say, meet the customer where they want to be met. Well, after I got a bunch of excuses about, well, I live in the mountains, I got so tired of hearing it that I was like, you know what dealership's closer than your living room? And immediately people would say, well, of course I would do that. Of course I would do that. And then we started to pick up incremental business. But to your point, when they come to the store, it's still the same, kind of arm wrestle and then move and then that and then that. So then I decided to say, hey, let's get rid of it. If I don't have you out of here in less than 1 hour, I'm going to pay for your oil changes for the next 5 years. Period. I don't care what happens. If you are in my
you're putting the onus on you to deliver. Otherwise,
that's what it should be, right? Ultimately, is that this is our place of business. So, David, name one of the top places that you go as a consumer to do retail business. Like what retail experience stands out to you as a consumer?
Well, so the irony is, of course, with the internet, everything else going on, so much is done online. But remember, probably a decade ago, Apple started building their own branded stores, and everybody thought they were crazy. Like the whole world's going online, and Apple seemingly going the other direction. And what Apple was saying, exactly what you said, what's closer than your living room? We're going to bring a store to you, a retail experience like no other. And Apple has, put the dart in the bullseye to deliver a retail experience like no other. You can walk in there and you can try everything, and you can, use the laptops and listen to music and try third-party speakers and do all this stuff and walk out without buying anything, and you don't feel bad about it. No one's pressuring you, no one's hounding you, but you have a great retail experience. And you may have moved things around, you may have messed it up, that kind of stuff. But when you walk into an Apple store, no matter what time of day, everything is aligned, everything is ready to go, everything is presented correctly. It's back on whatever demo that it doesn't matter what the last person left it as. By the time the next person walks up, it's ready to go. It's been refreshed. It's constantly being refreshed. It is an amazing retail experience that so many of not only automotive, but everybody should take a cue from, because they raise the bar. I guess that to answer your question, that's my number one, sort of example. But how does that apply to automotive? Every time I go on a dealership, doesn't matter how good or how bad the lot is or how good the dealer is, there's always room for improvement. There's old weathered window stickers. There's some that have fallen off because someone rolled the window down and it kind of ripped it off, and it's laying in the footwell of the vehicle. You've got cars that just could use a little brush, a little wash. Or so you're looking for like an SUV or something, and the cars are scattered all over the lot. They're not aligned correctly. They're not all in the same. Make it easy for me as a customer to find the vehicle I'm looking for. People still want that experience. And sort of through COVID, there was this whole thought of everybody's going to buy online, everybody's going to do this online. I remember looking at that going, yeah, I know the consultants are saying that. I know the guys selling the software are saying that, but the consumers aren't. They're not changing their shopping. I went out, this is great. So I went out the first weekend in April when COVID shut everything down. I'll never forget it. It was a big time in my life. Both my parents had died right before COVID. My dad had just passed less than a month before. And it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I'm like, I'm just going to get out. And I just need to get out of the house. And I thought, I want to go to dealerships because I'm a retail nerd, right? Which is kind of a sad story, but keep on going. That way, I spent my whole day at dealerships on Sunday. And I got to tell you, so Wisconsin, the Blue Law states, were not open on Sundays.
Yep.
And I went to all the big OEM stores in town, and I couldn't count fast enough the number of customers that were shopping the lot on a Sunday, on a beautiful Sunday, when COVID just locked down the entire world. They could be at home, sitting on the laptop, sitting on their phone, doing whatever, but they weren't. They were visiting dealerships. And it was a stark contrast to what the industry was trying to do. It doesn't matter what as industry what we want. It matters what the customer wants.
That's right.
Apple delivered a retail experience that delighted customers. They flocked to Apple stores. They line up. I mean, you can go in any mall today, and the mall's busiest store, the people who might have a line to get into the place, is only Apple stores. There are no other stores that do that in today's world. And customers are delighted. They're delighted. And I'm not an Apple guy. I'm a Google guy. So I don't. Yeah. So how do we? I get it. Yeah. So how do we delight customers? So some people like talk about origin stories, because I am not from automotive. I'm a nerd SaaS guy. This is my company. This company doing an automotive is my 13th startup. Hopefully, and 13th is a really lucky number because this company is going great. I'm having a ton of fun. But people ask, why did I start it? Why did I get into automotive? Especially my friends who are in the industry are like, dude, why did you get into automotive? And I say, I have three teenagers. I started buying used cars back in like 2017, 18. And I'd go into a dealership, I shop online and do this kind of stuff. And it was, the websites were okay. They could use a little bit of work, but they were good. The retailing was there. All the information was there. And then I went to a dealership and it might as well have been the 1950s. Like it was a time machine. And while standing physically in front of the inventory, I had the least access to information. I'm like, wait a minute, this is backwards. When I'm physically there, I should have the most access to information, but I didn't. And my entrepreneurial brain says, oh, there's a better way to do this. I have a platform that can do this. And so that's what I did. And you said this isn't sales. I don't want to go into sales, but I got really into the dealership retailing piece of it, because where does our product and our service fit into everything the dealership is doing? Because I'll come into a dealership, I learned about all about the sales process and ups and the sales tower and everything. I went to all my dealership friends and I'm like, hey, Obi-Wan, teach me. I'm a Padawan. Teach me all things about this industry that I don't know anything about. And the industry, to be fair, was unbelievably gracious. People gave me so much time. Strangers I would call at other vendors would spend half an hour talking to me. It was the most welcoming industry, hands down. So just want to throw that out there. But that experience of when someone comes on the lot and they say to you, oh, I'm just looking. We all roll our eyes in automotive about that. But what they're telling you is, I want to buy a car from you. I want to buy a product from you. But I don't want to talk to you right now. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to sit there and hound them because that's your up. That's your opportunity. The next, you got to go back in rotation, whatever it is.
Some people do. There, like you said before, there's a brand of people, I was among them, that, people say, look, I'm just looking. I said, look, I'm just showing. So I'm going to stand back here. And when you're ready for me, you let me know. I wouldn't let you walk around my house by yourself. So I'm not going to let you walk around my lot without, making sure you know what's going on. But you talked about it earlier that we wanted to, when I ran stores, we wanted to make sure that it was organized, that you could go to a certain place and see your pickup truck, see your sedan, see your under 15Ks, whatever the case was, because that's the experience people want. Right, is to be able to do that. And the problem is that from the tower down, right, once you're outside with an up, the expectation from the tower is to get it back inside, get it sat, get it written, and get into a deal, right?
Yep.
Let's go through it and do this and do that. And so I never bought into that. I never, ever cared about it. As a matter of fact, people will tell you that when I was in Boulder, Colorado, after growing up in the Chicago car business, customer said he wanted to come inside. So I wheeled a desk out from inside, outside. My owners, my managers, I worked there 2 months. They were like, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm like, look, this guy don't want to come inside and make a deal. We got his hands on a car. I'm going to just bring the table out there and make a deal in the parking lot. And we did. And that's what the customer wanted. He wasn't comfortable.
So there's this common theme to your two examples, which is you be where the customer is.
Always be where the customer is, but knowing from the tower down, knowing you have the control of that. And I think that's the uniqueness, David. A lot of people don't understand. It takes supreme talent to sell cars like we're talking. It is way easier to do the old school arm wrestle, in my opinion.
But how do we create an experience? Remember, Apple does the same experience across every retail store all over the world. How do they replicate that? It has to do with the methodology. Let's go back to so we're in Wisconsin. People shop the heck out of dealerships on Sunday because they want to shop without being accosted. And that's
your lot should be Sunday ready. It should be organized. It should be clean before you start.
But when someone comes there Monday through Saturday, and they come on the lot and they say, hey, I'm just looking. If you're lucky, you press them a business card. They don't want to talk to you, and you hope they call you. And I say, no, hope is not a sales strategy. You know what a sales strategy is? It's delighting the customer, giving them something unexpected, something that you keep talking about. And that is, they walk in and say, hey, I'm just looking. You say, great. Welcome to Dave's Discount Auto. I'll just use my name, for example. My name's Dave. I'll tell you what, we want you to have a great shopping experience at Dave's Discount Auto. Do you have your phone with you? Of course you do. Tell you what, all of our cars have QR codes. Shop, walk around the lots, scan the code. You get the current fair market. You get the current market price. You get all information about the car. If it's a used vehicle, you get the vehicle history report. Everything you need. You can have a great shopping experience. And when you're ready, my name's Dave, and I'll be inside. And they stand there, and they're ready to defend against this onslaught. And you don't. You invite them, and you say, hey, you can. And they've been primed to hey, scan with your phone, this kind of stuff. Have a great shopping experience. Hey, do you need a bottle of water? It's kind of warm out today. Well, I'm here to serve you. And they're just like blown away. Like they weren't expecting that. They're delighted. They weren't, and that's a different dealership experience. So the reason I tell the story that way is because clearly, my company, we do QR codes. But when I tell that to sales managers or GMs, I give them this older example. Literally 95% of the times that I tell that to anybody management, they say flat out, hey, 2 seconds. Can you come tell that to my team? They all are like, yeah, that's great. Come tell that to my team. That is so like, I mean, and it's not nothing. It's not anything that we do as a company, but they like the idea of delighting the customers and giving a different experience. And that's why when I talk about things on LinkedIn, so I'd say I'm all about dealership retailing, and it has to do with like physically managing inventory and the messaging on the inventory and what's all on there, and focusing on what sells cars. Hey, balloons and flags don't. Stop wasting money on it. It doesn't matter. You don't walk into an Apple store and see balloons and flags and crap all over the place. Like, stop wasting money on things that don't sell. I forget who coined it. Disc, does it sell cars? At the end of the day, does it sell cars? But it also has to do with the way that your staff treats a customer and delights them. And in our case, you'll say, well, Dave, you didn't get the guy's phone number, you got nothing. It's but in our situation, my product does, they scan a vehicle, you get the name and phone number automatically. So you get the lead, you can follow up with them. And we always tell people, great, when you get their phone number, you know what I don't want you to do? Don't call them. And they're like, what? Yeah, they just said they don't want to talk to you. Yeah. But you know what you can do? You can shoot them a text. Hey, John, Dave, I met you yesterday at my store. That Sienna you're looking at, those are great vans. They move fast, blah, 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 whatever it is. And give them the helpful information. Engage with them. Start a conversation. Don't make it the first thing out of your mouth. Hey, can you come in to test drive? Can you come in for an appointment? Hold on a second. It's like dating. We're not there yet. I need to have a relationship. I got to work with this person. So it's really funny when we were starting the company 4 years ago, we were interacting with customers trying to figure out what the best way to get a lead was, and this is hysterical. So we'd ask them. We actually prompted them in our interface. Do you want to give me your email address or your phone number? They would only ever give it. They would only ever give an email address. Really? But when we asked dealerships, which do you want, an email address or a phone number? Every dealership said we want their phone number. Yeah. Well, those aren't meeting. Those are like this, right?
That's because there's some sort of a difference between the contact pieces, right? It's because people don't.
100%. No. Yeah, they don't want you to call them. They don't
have the patience. Like, follow up by email is long form, right? Short form is by text.
No, it's not that. No, it's not that. It had to do with they don't want you to call them. They don't want to talk to you.
Well, right, but okay. From a dealership perspective, they can't see that far into it because all we have is their email.
Oh no, 100%. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at
right.
Yeah, I was coming from
without a phone number. Bad lead, not a real person, not a real deal, which is patently false because people will give you way more fake phone numbers in your lead form submissions than they'll ever give you fake emails. And if they give you fake emails, it's clearly like obvious, like Seymour Butts at Gmail, and you're like, cool. Like those are easy to write off. But the thing is when you talk about the experience, I think a lot of you said something funny. It's about managers asking you to go talk to their crew about what you had said, right? About this idea of the guest experience. And I would challenge that manager to say, well, hold on a second. Aren't you part of the reason this guest experience sucks? I know it's really easy for you to say you're salespeople, but in our industry, shit rolls downhill. So if the managers on the desk believe that customers' best, negotiation is being in person, yet when a vendor shows, because I dealt with this as a corporate trainer, managers would say, oh, yeah, talk to my team. I talk to their team, give them advice. I walk out, manager go, do not do a thing that guy just said. He doesn't work here. He doesn't know how we operate. So, when I hear managers talking about what they think is right or having you go give speeches, I immediately go, bullshit. Why don't you get out there and tell your team how this works? Because you are part of the problem. So it's not a salesman problem. It's a manager and executive level problem.
It definitely does flow downhill 100%. We've had corporate roll our product out to some of their stores. I'm not going to name names. And the rooftop wasn't doing what they had to do the product. And as I visited them to find out what was going on, I'm like, talked in. The guy's like, hey, yeah, dude, we don't want the person that walks in here to know that it's 23 online, but we have it listed for 27 at the car. Exactly. We don't want that. We don't want them to know. I'm like, that's on you. That's great.
That's cool.
That's
Those
good.
are games we played in like 2004, 2007. Okay, like
Dude,
it's
this was
gross.
3 months ago.
I
It's
know. No, I
I'm
know. I see it. Look, I deal with
yeah,
it all the time. And yet 6
yeah.
months from now, you're gonna all wonder why you can't get your customers out of the vehicles they're trying to trade in 6 months, a year, 12, 18 from now. So again, that's what I talk about when we're just this is us as an industry. It's like, can you see your feet? Cool, that's enough. We're not, I hate 30-day sales cycles. I hate 30-day discussions about what we did or didn't do. I used to, my managers would come to me, Sean, got any deals last day of the month? No, I don't have any deals. You know why? Because we'll be in business next month. We're going to need to sell cars next month. Give it a rest on this. Force my customer, make some stupid offer. You know, David, I think sales can get a little disgusting like that when you start being like end of the month or like in the moment. And I'll say this, when we were in Vegas for Digital Dealer, there were a couple of vendors who were doing some dirty boiler room type shit. And I frown upon it. If my clients ever get offered a free dinner, tickets to YouTube, just to sign a contract for a vendor at an event, I would tell all of you to go running the other way. You do not want to deal with vendors who want to snake you into a deal on the last day. That's how I get pissed off about things, because if you were really good about your product, if I see value, I'll call you 10 days, 12 days, 30 days from now. That's how I view it.
You're not wrong. Oh, and to be fair, I'm a little jealous. I missed Digital Dealer this year, and it looked like it was fantastic.
Man, it was, it was wild. We had a really good time. That'll be my last one here for a while. I'm going back into the data cave here, and I'm not going to be coming out. We're developing a couple new things on our end, so I got time to focus on that. But yeah, no, it was cool. It's good, but that stuff started to show up, and we were at a dinner with a client who got a text from a vendor who's like, "I'll pick up your dinner bill. I'll send you to U2, and you can go to a Knights game if you sign on the dotted line today." And it was just like, that dude just offered you $2,000 worth of shit. Why doesn't he just down his price 200 and tell you to come get it when you can? Like, I don't know. Some of that stuff is just so skeezy, but we do it in our industry. We do it on the last day of the month. Oh, if I can get you another 750 today. Like, why give up gross because it's the 30th when you can retain gross and sell that car on the 5th of the following month?
Well, so it's so funny because when I was first figuring out, like, the proper, sales and marketing for this, because it was a new industry, new vertical for me. In my other SaaS companies, we had 30-day free trials or other things, this kind of stuff. And that had no bearing on if people wanted the product or not. So I stopped doing it. It's like there's no value in it. And
free
at the
does
end of
us
the day,
no
also,
good. No, David, you already pointed it out, dude. Free does us
yeah.
no good because people will use it less than the dealership you referenced using it, right? Because
Well, it's
no
also
buy-in.
it's also if the dealership doesn't have any skin in the game, they're not using it. It's like, no, you got to be committed to it. And it's also, but at the end of the day, it's not that you're displacing another vendor for us or this kind of stuff. It's like there's just one extra thing that you need to do as a dealership, but it's also kind of a different mentality in approach it. But to think about, again, the bulk of my conversations with my customers isn't about my product at all. It's about dealership retailing. It's about overall. They're asking me like, "Hey, Dave, what are you seeing over here? What are you seeing over there? How would you grade our store? What should we change?" I've had dealerships say, I've gone to dealerships and they're like, "Oh, it's not, we're not doing as well as the guys down the street." I said, "Well, part of it is you literally have the vehicle history report and everything printed out on the dashboard. You got all this stuff. They have no reason to scan a code because you got them all the information. Do you want to get leads? You got to hold a little bit something back. You got to give them a reason. You got to have a call to action. You've got to have, it's retailing 101. But sometimes you got to take a step back and say, what are we really doing here? And I will make a little suggestion, to some dealerships like, hey, I think if you make this change, I think we can actually drive more opportunity for you and you're going to sell more cars. And they go, but that makes no sense to us. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to you in how you've always done things. But in the world of retailing and customer engagement, this makes a lot of sense because I showed an example of that what Amazon does and that kind of stuff. I said, you're already doing it in your life. You're already engaging with it, but you're not practicing at your dealership. They make the change. And like 2 weeks in, they're like, yeah, dude, 100%. That's amazing. Like we're literally seeing night and day responses. I'm like, thank you. And the great part about dealership retailing is you do see fast results. It's not something you got to wait for a quarter to see changes on. And word gets around quickly. Somebody, that customer comes in and they get a delightful experience that's out of the norm. They're going to talk about it.
It's the power of social media that dealers miss. You see, it's a whole step right here, David. You're talking about delivering an experience and then finding a way to create people who will go out and be an evangelist for you via social media and tag them, allow them to share it with their partners, with their friends, with their whatevers. People don't do it. And I say this all the time, and it dates the shit out of myself. I really don't care. But if I had a CRM, if I had social media, if I had a BDC, dude, I'd still be selling cars probably like my man Jeff Larson, putting up 40 a month on appointment only, working 20 hours a month, because the deal, it would just come to you. So salespeople today they have the most tech at their fingertips, the most support and ability they've ever had, yet it seems like they're getting less out of each other because they're just sort of, well, I mean, we haven't broken out of our COVID habit here. That's the truth, David. The truth.
No, the habits built during COVID were brutal. They're so bad.
We're still very much like, you don't like the price? Cool, get out. See you later. And that sort of attitude is waning. Discounts on cars are stacking up. Cars are getting on the lot. Things are happening. New cars now, what is it, like $800-900 monthly payments? Like, what are we talking about? Have some respect for what you go through. Granted, I will say that the mortgage experience is even less rewarding than buying a car because at least I can drive my car out of there and go have fun. Now mortgages that experience sucks. And I did mine digitally and it still sucked. There's no fun consumer experience that comes with buying a house. However, now we used to say this would be the second biggest purchase in people's life, a car. I got news for you. It's turned to number one, I think, for the majority of people, because majority of people can't afford to even get into the housing market.
They're renting. Yeah.
Right? They're renting, but they're coming to buy cars from you. So why don't we have a little respect for that? And I always say now, if they show up on your lot, you really think they want to do something else? You really think there's a chance they don't need a car?
And that's why, okay, so on that, you just brought up a good point. It is the value, the difference between somebody that shows up on the lot versus I call them tire clickers if they're sitting at their home on their phones versus tire kickers. You know, if they come to your store, they're invested in the purchasing process. They're going to buy a car. They're invested in your store. They took time out of their schedule to go to your store to look at your inventory. They are an in-market buyer. I see all these vendors like, hey, we'll get you more leads and this and that.
Oh, God,
why are you wasting money on leads that aren't going to convert?
First-party data, in-market shopper bullshit. Like, give it a rest.
But how many in-market buyers walk off their lot with never making a connection? I'm like, do you understand the opportunity lost? Like especially on blue law state, especially in the Midwest, because we got all these states, every Sunday. But it's also the irony is 60% of the losses come during Monday through Saturday. It's not just Sundays.
No, it's not
People
just Sunday. Sunday's easy to point a finger at because it's the blue law, right?
And especially now, and especially it's easier blue law, but now with the economic headwinds facing dealerships who are selling an expensive item, and now the finance is brutal. I mean, the cash buyers are cash buyers. And now suddenly every in-market buyer matters. Every single one of them. And the bulk of them are anonymous to the dealerships. They shop you anonymously online. They until they walk on the lot, you still don't know them. Until they walk in and talk to Johnny the sales guy or Sally the sales girl and give their name. That's probably the first time out of like 50% of the time you've ever heard of this person. But they have been going around now. If you can get their contact info before the next guy, and you start engaging with them, like you're turning this anonymous, because if they're anonymous to your store, they're anonymous to every other store. The first store to make the connection is probably going to get the sale. And so that's our thing is like, listen, now more than ever, the more challenging times are, the more it's like, yeah, online is great. You can throw money till the cows come home into online and barely see an uptick. But if you focus on the dealership retail experience and converting those people, those in-market buyers who are truly going to buy, they're at the end of their purchasing journey. The last thing they do is go to dealerships to look at the cars. If it's a used vehicle, they want to make sure it matches the description and the photos and that kind of stuff. They want to touch it and feel it. Like they're going to buy a car in the next week. And dealerships are dropping the ball on the most important opportunity because their cost to acquire that customer is ironically smaller than every other part of the chain. But they will hemorrhage out insane money because I've seen dealerships go, hey, this is how much you're spending on XYZ. I'm like, oh my word. And how many of those convert?
David,
Like,
that's my whole life. is looking at that data, looking at those budgets, thinking,
I'm online. I started with Google Ads when Google Ads first started in 2003. Like I've been doing this forever. I'm looking at what what dealerships are doing, and I get the fact that online, got to do it. But you got to be sensible about it and be smart about it. And I think guys like you are like, hey, let's look at the ROI, which we say, hey, we folks that come to your dealership, we're going to tie them back to your online marketing, so you can close loop and say, hey, these things are making us money. They're driving leads and opportunity that are actually closing deals. This other stuff isn't. Get rid of it. You got to always you know how it is.
and
you're always evaluating.
It's always changing, right? And some of
you're
these
always evaluating.
They go down, they do this, they do that, they rebrand.
But the opportunity of these people that are anonymous through the entire process, but when they come on the lot, like it's so funny. I look at I was, Green Bay, what are we, 130,000 people? I mean, the stadium's almost as big as the town. Yet the OEM stores will see anywhere from 140 to 220 individual car buyers every Sunday. How do I know that? Because I have all the data.
Right, because you have all the Sunday clicks. Look, I grew up in the car business. So blue laws have been a thing.
But there's a fair amount of there is some crossover. But we look at it and say, I can look at a metro and say, there are X number of in-market car buyers in your metro
on Sunday.
Why aren't you getting those people?
Yeah. I actually almost got my sale. I almost lost my ability to sell in the state of Illinois because I was throwing barbecues on Sundays at the lot. And I was
you just can't talk price?
It was a side lot. And so I didn't talk price, but it just so happened that all the cars were unlocked. So when the state came by, they were like, so all your cars are unlocked? I'm like, yeah, the guys totally forgot to lock them Saturday. I'll do it after I leave here.
Oh, well.
They were like, Sean, we get what's going on here.
Sean, that's a clear example of hate the player, hate the game. You were pushing the envelope. Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, fine, I get it. Like, leave me alone. I was just out here on Sunday trying to have some fun because I was, trying to find different ways to connect before the internet. Again, I used to get fax internet leads, David. Okay, that's how long I've been doing the car business online game. And so it's evolved, but we as an industry, we started to like, oh, the internet buyer, like that's how it was for like a solid 10 years, like, oh, keep it away from me. And now we're in this everyone buys cars online BS, which is never going to happen. If you did not successfully transition the US consumer to buying cars online during COVID, you will not do it. I'm telling you, stop all the digital retail. OEMs, pull your heads out of your asses. No one cares about buying a car that way. What they care about is what David's speaking to you about, which is being cared for. The last mile, right, is what Amazon focuses on. That's what we should be focused on. The last mile of the car buying journey. What happens? How do we bring them in, make them feel better? I was just at my local Ace Hardware. I walk in. I said, hey, man, I'm looking for one of these grills you had online. He's like, oh, you remember the model number? I'm like, oh, it's a travel grill. Immediately, the kid's like, oh, right here. Boom, puts me right on it. I'm like, great. I'll take it. He's like, well, it's the last one left, the floor model. And it was one of these ones you could just crank aside and then just roll it away. And that's what we did. It was in there 10 minutes, $400 grill, done, gone, out the road. No one could be happier, especially me, because I walked in with an online feedback loop that he closed with the unit in person, didn't take time to, waste selling me, trying to have me look at other shit that I wasn't interested in. And the deal was over in 10 minutes. So I've always believed in the car business. We can do it, David. As a matter of fact, I don't believe, I know, because I've done it. We were doing all of this before it was cute, cool, and fun. And the reality is dealers are still so stuck on how to meet the customer where they are.
Because we've always done it that way. Because that's the worst mentality. That's the mentality that's got to be broken.
It is. And you talk about the Apple Store and how it's continuity across the board. That's to me, that's simpler than what dealers deal with, because although dealers are part of an OEM, they are a franchise individual. They are left to their own devices. So it isn't as simple. And no, I do not believe that OEM direct sales is the answer to any of this. So if anyone hearing me is like, oh, he's not going down that road, that is a bigger disaster than the one we currently live in. Trust me when I tell you, ask your friends in Europe how that's going. People hate it. Hate buying a car right now in the direct OEM model. So, David, as we kind of get down to this here, because you've been gracious with your time, and I don't want to take up too much of it, what is it that you see from your perspective that is low-hanging fruit to change right now? What would you recommend A1 to get out there and say, this is what I see most dealers need to change immediately for a better experience?
So my answer is heavily biased because it's where I started my company,
Sure.
and it is the mentality of make your dealership work like your website, 24/7. As I started off with, when you're physically in front of the vehicle, you have the least access to information. You put QR codes on the vehicles. They can scan, they get access to that volumetric the volume information you've got on the VDP, all that other information. But and you can do, there's DMS to do QR codes, that kind of stuff. You can do QR codes a lot of different ways. Now, I do them better than anybody else for scientific reasons and technological reasons. Scientifically, we put them on the outside of the vehicles. We put them big. We have huge call to actions. We've tested all these call to actions on why people want to scan, because it's a value exchange, right? You don't just put a QR code and you're like, I don't, what am I going to do with this? They don't know what to do with it. You have to have a call to action. And the ones that are on the window sticker, super small behind privacy glass, I joke about, stop squinting through the tinting. If you're going to do that, put it in their face. Hey, invite them to interact with the car. Make your inventory
stickers all over the car for the price, right? We used to put these gigantic, all that shit back in the day to get that, to get the eyeball, to get the idea.
And that works, but also part of it is because someone wants to look at and they know in their head how much they want to spend. They can look and say, yeah. Oh, that's a number I want to spend. I'll go look at that car. There's a lot about price. And so one of the things we do is, I'm not going to show that, but scan for live market price. We let them put the price in there. Hey, was $39,995. Scan for live market price. The number one thing they want to know is price all day long. It's the number one. This is my data. This is my research telling all the dealerships. The number one reason people are going to scan a QR code is for price. All day long.
It's the number one thing people are going to ask you. It's the number one people buy a car. Whether people say it's not a factor is bullshit. It is more than a factor, especially today. Especially
but here's the second problem.
That is sitting on a 7.3 rate that I was just given to buy out my lease.
Yep.
So I don't want to hear about it not being easy. It can be done. It can be done.
Yeah. And it's also if you're going to put your VDP, your QR codes on your cars, scan the code and look at your damn website from your phone, which is how all the customers look at it. And next thing you know, it's like, okay, you got a big banner header here. Now this chat pops up in this corner, another thing here. You can't even see the car because you have all this crap that all these vendors have shoved on your website. If it's a mobile customer, turn all of that off. Turn chat off. Turn all that crap off, because they are trying to get at information, and all you're doing is getting in their way. That's not good retailing. It's not rocket science. It really isn't rocket science. But then again, the number one thing is make your dealership work like a website. Like I said, we do the QR code thing, and the only difference is every time somebody scans one of our codes, you get a VIN specific verified lead with name and phone number and other information every time without the customer typing anything. That's what we do.
Is the customer aware of that though?
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, so they're aware of what they've done. Now, the only reason I ask is there's a lot of people talking about basically getting rid of the anonymous part of the online experience. And there's dealerships that are getting approached with people like, oh, you had 3,000 visitors. Here's the name and email for 1,800 of them. And it's like, A, not cool from a consumer perspective. I don't like that. B, what exactly do you think that dealership's going to do with that information? You think they're going to cold call those people? And how's that going to go? Right. So I like the fact that yours is obvious and apparent. People know what they're getting themselves.
But it's also, and we keep engaging with them. We look at what vehicles are looking at from a make, model, or type, or price range. And our system says, hey, the dealership you were at just got 2 new vehicles in the type you were looking at. And the SMS engagement that we're seeing is like they're engaging. And if this isn't a read, because every SMS is read, this is an engagement. We're over 75% engagement on our SMS with inventory for dealerships. So getting the lead is the first thing that we do, which is mind-boggling for a lot of dealerships. But then after harvesting, we call that part harvesting, then we cultivate these leads with contextually valuable time of flight information. Hey, that car sold. Here's some other ones. Hey, price drop on this, on the Silverado, this kind of things. And people know they're interacting with an AI agent, and they love it because it's like dealing with Amazon. It's like it gives them the information that they want, that helps them through the last stage of their buying journey.
Well, you guys, if you heard it here, I mean, there's ways to do it. There's ways to make it happen. David, thank you so much for making the time to come on and share this with us. I'm really thankful that we were able to get into it. I appreciate you not being too salesy with me. You got to your point. You brought up the experience of the 24/7 dealership is something that we've preached and always try to talk about in the inverse way, right? Which is, hey, keep your website as clean as you keep your lot, right? You wouldn't allow a ton of weeds, but you'll allow a bunch of shit in the way of your VDPs. So let's make sure we can keep those two together. David, sooner or later, we have to run into each other in person, man. I really appreciate all that you do for our industry. You haven't been here long, but you've made quite the impact since you have been here. So thank you for that. And if there's anything we can do to help you along the way, please let me know.
I'll tell you what, I've loved the industry. For all the people that I can't even name that have helped me out so far, thanks so much. Just having so much fun with this great group of people that's in this
There's
industry.
nothing to me. There's no better industry than the car business. I love it to death. Next week on the show, we are going to be getting into a little bit different discussion. Be sure to tune in. Have yourselves a great rest of your week, and thank you so much for joining us.